Hello, welcome back to the channel. This is where we get started. I am back with another episode. Teach me how to love. Are you ready to love? One of the things that we must learn is sometimes when people are loving us incorrectly, we can return that love to sender. So when the postman is dropping it off with the fake hellos and the fake air kisses, mistreatment, abusive speech, talking to you wrong, return it to sender. And that does not necessarily mean that you're going to respond to them the way they're responding to you. Instead, what you can do is let them know that you are an offense to me. Take this back with you. Get thee behind me, Satan. You are an offense to me. I am not putting up with your crap. So that's how we're gonna get started with this. Teach me how to love. So let's figure out the definition for love. What is love? Love is strong affection, warm attachment, attraction based on sexual desire, a beloved person, unselfish, loyal, and benevolent concern for others, a score of 0 in tennis. So we're going to be talking about to feel a passion or devotion for someone instead of all the other things. We're going to talk about being compassionate and loving people even when we don't like them, even when they don't like us. So the Bible explains to us so many different things: how to love your husband, how to love your enemies, how to love your children, how to love your parents. So let's get into it, okay? So let's first start off with a few scriptures that I wanted to read. Matthew 5:44. But I say to you, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust. For if you love those who love you, what reward have you? Verse 48, therefore you shall be perfect, just as your Father in heaven is perfect. Leviticus 19:18 says, love your neighbor as yourself. Your neighbors are those you meet and come in contact with, those you work with, go to school with, etc. Family members you don't really like to see coming or going. Proverbs chapter 25:21 and 22. If your enemies are hungry, give them some of that good food, something good to drink. For so you will heap coals of fire on his head, and the Lord will reward you. Proverbs 22:6 says, if we train our children, that means we love them and want a future for them. Ephesians 6:4, and ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Colossians 3:21, fathers, provoke not your children to anger, lest they be discouraged. So I read those scriptures just so that it can be like a remembrance while we're talking about these other things. So as parents, to provoke your children, just to continue riding them and being hard on them all the time, that's not going to be good for their future. We have so many traumatized people in the world already. So to show love means to train them, and training by example. Are we living a life that's pleasing to God while we're in front of our children? Or are we living any kind of way and telling our children to do as we say and not as we do? So that's the type of thing that we have to think about as parents, training them, being that example, loving them, spending time with them, talking with them, listening to them. Don't always run your mouth. I know that back in the day, they were taught to just be quiet. I was taught to just be quiet. Yes, ma'am. Do as they say. But sometimes we must listen to children to understand what's going on, if something's happened to them, because sometimes there are so many secrets, so many things have happened, whether they're at school. So sometimes it's important to get some feedback from your children. Don't always just be the one talking. Also, I had to learn that because I'm not perfect, I can't expect my children to be perfect. So God is still training me. God still corrects me. God still helps me. He's still growing me. So that means that as I'm learning, I can't expect my children to be perfect every single time I teach them something. So Training your child is loving them, but understanding that you're going to continue to love them even when they get out of the house. You're going to continue training and growing them and helping them, but we're preparing them while they're in the house, and then once they are out, they're still going to come back to us. If we have that type of love for them, they will want to come back because they know that we were loving and compassionate. And that's one of the things that a lot of parents must learn, to love your children so that they will want to speak to you, will want to open up to you about certain situations. How to love your wives. Ephesians tells us, let's go, got the scriptures right here. Ephesians 5:25, husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it. Verse 26, that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word. Verse 27, that he might present it to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be holy and without blemish. The only way it could be holy and without blemish is if you are washing her with the word. The only way it could be holy and without blemish, a glorious church, is by being sanctified and cleansed by the washing of water by the word. And he did this after giving himself. Things were accomplished through his love. So he gave himself because he loved us. He died because he loved us. He rose again because he loved us, because he wants us to have a home in heaven. So that's the same thing we're supposed to do with each other, because we love, we want the best for people. And so in order to show that we want the best for people, we want to obey the scriptures and make sure that if you're a husband, you love your wife. Wife, respect your husband. I know that's hard to do these days, but respect your husband. Ephesians 5:28. Are you mistreating yourself? Are you harming your own body? Do you talk down to yourself? Do you bruise yourself up? Do you slap yourself around? Do you degrade yourself in speech? If you do, if you do these things, that would mean that you probably need some help. And not probably, but you do need help. And so you can seek out help, seek out wise counsel, learn how to love yourself better. Because I know that one of the scriptures I wanted to go over was loving your neighbor as yourself. Now, if you don't love yourself, that means that you wouldn't love someone else properly. So however you're treating yourself and you're giving that same thing out towards other people, return it to sender. That's what I'm telling people. Well, I believe that. Return it to sender. Don't accept the foolishness. You don't have to put up with the foolishness. I don't care who it's from. Whoever's dropping it off, I don't care if it's the postman, whoever's delivering this inconsiderate, this foolish love, this fake love, this blowing kisses in the wind love. So I suggest returning this fake love, or whatever the case, return it to sender. Let the postman know to send that back to whomever, okay? And inform the person that you're doing this and it affects me. This is how it's affecting my life. It's affecting my peace. Allow them to know. Another thing is, I believe that when Jesus was doing certain things or saying certain things to the enemy within a person, so the enemy was within a person, he would speak to the enemy. So you got to speak to the invisible. Speak to the invisible within the person. So, get thee behind me, Satan. You are an offense to me. So allow the person to know, look, this is how you're offending me. I'm not putting up with your crap. Return it. Go somewhere else with it. I'm not doing it. So you can still show your love, but let them know, because you're not going to allow people to cross your boundaries. You're not going to allow people to mistreat you. This is a new year, a new you. So talk back to the enemy. Let the enemy know what you're not going to put up with, so he can find somewhere else to go. Okay, pack it up and get out. Okay, how to love your husband. So respect and submission is a form of love towards the husband. So when you're loving him, that's the love language that he's receiving from you. So respect him. Now, I know that there are so many people going through stuff, and they don't want to respect a person who's not really being or acting or following Christ, right? So if they're not imitators of Christ, it's harder to respect them. But the Bible says to still respect them even if they aren't living according to the word. When you respect them and are kind to them and show yourself as a godly woman, they will in time change. So I know that's hard to just continue, but You want to follow the word, obey God, and leave the consequences to Him. I say that often. Leave the consequences to God. You are obedient to His word, and then you remind Him of His word. Lord, you said to do this. I want some change in my life. I need change. I need some things to be different. There are so many who are mentally unstable because of issues that are going on in marriage. So many people are killing people and killing themselves because of things that are going on in their marriage. Some people don't know how to suffer or suffer long. Some people don't know how to endure. So you have to strengthen yourself through the word, prayer, fasting, get your relationship with God. Also, assembling yourself with others so that you can get more strength, assembling yourself and allowing others' testimonies to strengthen you. So that's going to encourage you to continue going on in the Lord, okay? How to love God. John 15:10 states, if you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. Verse 12, this is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for his friends. So if you love God, you keep his commandments. And so that means that you're submitting to do his will. And that proves that you love him when you're obedient to his word. So if you love him and love others, you'll keep his commandments. Profess him and who he is to you. And that's another way to prove that you love someone, because in life, don't we tell everybody that we love this person or that person, and you want to flaunt this person all around town or show people, hey, this is my beautiful wife, this is my handsome husband. So the same with God. He wants you to profess him, profess your faith. So if you love him, be obedient to his word, do what you're supposed to do. John 13:34, a new commandment I give you, that you love one another. When you love your brothers or others, it proves you love him, because you are following his word and are obedient to him, are thinking of others rather than yourself, the same way he did when he died on the cross, and then he does daily for us while he still loves us and forgives us. 1 John 3:18, children, let us not love in word or in tongue, but in deed and in truth. So what does that mean? That means that we ought to be real. We ought to be true in our love. We don't just be talking mouthpiece and lying, acting like you love God, but then you're living for the world, living like the world, being disobedient all over the place with everything else. But then when you come to church or when you're around people, you're faking like you're the holiest of holy. So let's not do lip service. Let's actually be sincere in our heart with our love. So we obey the commandments. He says, love me. If you love me, keep my commandments. So we're going to love him by keeping the commandments. And we're going to love each other with realness, real love, not with the fake stuff. Return it to sender if it's fake. Keep your love if it's not going to be real. So we're going to read 1 John chapter 3, verse 14 through 23. We know that we have passed from death to life because we love the brethren. He who does not love his brother abides in death. Whoever hates his brother is a murderer, and you know that no murderer has eternal life abiding in him. Verse 16, by this we know love, because he laid down his life for us, and we also ought to lay down our lives for the brethren. But whoever has this world's goods and sees his brother in need and shuts up his heart from him, how does the love of God abide in him? Verse 18, my little children, let us not love in word or in tongue, but in deed and in truth. And by this we know that we are of the truth, and shall assure our hearts before him. For if our heart condemns us, God is greater than our hearts and knows all things. And whatever we ask, we receive from him, because we keep his commandment and do those things that are pleasing in his sight. And this is his commandment, that we should believe on the name of his son, Jesus Christ, and love one another as he gave us commandment. So again, we have to love, not in just word, but in deeds, in action. So like it says, if you see somebody who's hungry, especially when you see the saints or people that you have known, your neighbors or whatever it is, you see somebody hungry, give them something to eat. It doesn't matter if you like them or not. It doesn't matter if they're not doing the things that you would want them to be doing, or they're not dressed the way you want them to be dressed, or they don't act the way you want them to act. If somebody's hungry, feed them. If they need clothing, clothe them if you have enough. Okay? Make sure that you're doing as you should if you say that you are a follower. 1 John chapter 4:20 tells us, if someone says, I love God but hate his brother, he is a liar. So actually, we're supposed to love everybody. Like, if we can't love at the house And then how can we go to church and love everybody? And if we go to church and we're worshiping God, how can we say we love God, the person that we don't see, but we can't love those who we see in front of our face every single day? Acting like we care for people, but we really, really have to have sincerity in our hearts, and loving people, and really, really doing the things of God, treating people right. If you see people needing help, help them. He gives us directions and instructions, right? And so it's up to us to follow his footsteps. And it says, like, be imitators of Christ. And if we say that we are imitating Christ, then he loves people. He loves the ones that are outcast, the ones who are not in the forefront, those who don't have a title, those who are humble. It says, love those and associate with the humble. So you might want to check your walk and examine yourself if you are too good to talk to the lowly, because God always hung out with those sinners and those who were not, uppity or so holy, like, the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Jesus, he hung out with those who needed to be saved. When I think about love, I was thinking about how Abraham was instructed to give up his son. Now, if we say that we love God so much, like, would we be able to give up the things that we care about, especially when it's a human? That was his son. And so, but regardless of that being his son, and that, like, God promised him this son, Abraham loved God more than anything that he was willing to obey. And that's what we must do. We must obey him regardless of the things that we do have. Like, Lord, do you want me to keep this? Or when he's instructing us to do something, when he's instructing us to give away something or give up something, if he's instructing us to give up these relationships, if you're in a fornicating relationship, you need to give it up and learn how to love yourself so that you can have the right relationship. So get a relationship with God so you can learn to love yourself. And then you won't have to give your body away. And then you won't have to put up with the crap, all the drama, it's a complicated situation over here and over there. And you have to compromise because this person says he loves you and you say you love them, vice versa. Women are telling you that they love you, but they're full of crap. So you have to love yourself enough to walk away from relationships so that you can get a relationship with God. Learn his love for you and what he's done for you and how he sent his son to die for you, and learn to love yourself. Okay. But back to Abraham. So Abraham he was willing to give up his son for the sake of love. So God said, Abraham, this is what I want you to do. But the fact that he was obedient and willing to do what God said, that's how God put the ram in the bush. Now, if we love God and we do the things that he's saying, so like I just stated, if you go ahead and give up that fornicated relationship, God will allow the right person to come into your life. If you are willing to give up this job that's causing problems in your life, I'm not saying that people should endure on the job. There are things that you should endure, but some people have jobs just because of the money, and they love the money more than they love God. So they don't spend time with the Lord. They're doing everything else. But sometimes God wants you to let go of certain things. So you have to listen, have a sensitive ear, hear God, and do what he says. And if you love him, you'll listen and be obedient. And that's part of the love, keeping his commandments. And part of his commandments is like when he's speaking to you, just listen. If you hear him, harden not your heart. Do what he says, okay? Now we're going to talk about how to love yourself, all right? So to love yourself, you got to honor your body. You're supposed to present your bodies holy unto the Lord. So that means what? Not giving it away, not being unclean, not doing unclean things, not touching the unclean things, putting unclean things in your mouth. So if you're not married and you're fornicating, that's unclean all around situations. And we're not going to go into details about that. And then also ask God to open up your blind eyes. So since you don't understand that he loves you and that God has sent his son to come down for you, to die for you, that's for all of us, and given himself over unto death. And even though he rose again, but he died for you. That's what you must remember. So he gave his life for you. So that means that you ought to want to give your life to him differently. Like, just don't come with the talking and running your mouth and acting like you love him, and then also turn around and keep doing the same thing. We're not supposed to live in willful sinning, even though some do. But you have to check your walk and examine, okay, how do I want to appear before God? Even if it's not when you get to heaven, it's appearing before him daily. When you go to him and you talk to him, you don't have to be ashamed. if you're just try to do his will, try to please him. That's it. Like, don't worry about how other people look at you and how they think of you. Please God, keep his commandments, and you'll learn to love yourself. And when you learn to love yourself, you understand that you won't put up with certain things. You won't put up with anything from anybody. I don't care if it's on the job, a supervisor talking crazy to you. You're not going to put up with it. You can ignore it better when you love yourself. You can respond better when you love yourself, or you cannot respond at all when you love yourself. And if it's at home, it's the same way. So you got to learn to love yourself without having to allow that old man to come back, the old man mentality and mindset to come back in, and it may make you not love people just because of the way they mistreat you. So honor God with your thoughts, with your obedience, with your actions, and love people that needs to be loved. Everybody needs love. Once you understand his love for you and how you deserve better because he's giving you more than anybody else could. Once you understand that you don't have to put up with foolishness, including the foolish choices that you've made, you can now stand firm on his promises. And now you can talk back to the enemy. You can tell the enemy, shut up, back up. Get thee behind me, Satan. You are an offense to me. I'm no longer giving my body away. I'm no longer doing the things that I used to do. I'm no longer giving myself to drugs and alcohol. I'm no longer hanging out at the parties and the clubs. Now, if you feel like you need to do those things, hey, do what you got to do, but you can't say that, God doesn't love you. Like, when you put yourself in situations and you cause problems in your own life, it's not that God doesn't love you. He's allowing you to do what you want to do. You want to be a pig and roll around in the mud and get muddy and nasty, then that's what he's allowing you to do. No more accepting less in your life. So let's do a recap. How to love. So number one, we're going to listen. After we read the word, you hear within your spirit what God is telling you to do personally. We can't go by what other people are doing and how they're loving us and how they respond. You have to love people regardless of how they look, what they're wearing, how they act, if they don't act right. Even if you know the truth behind closed doors and the way they are, you have to listen within your spirit and hear God, when he's directing your steps to love people and showing you how to love, because he will reveal to you how to love people even when those people don't love you back. So listen to him. That's how we learn to love. Even if you listen to other people, listen, talking about God, you listen to him, be obedient, love, keep his commandments. And by keeping his commandments, that means you're loving your brethren. And then over here, you listen to, if you're in a relationship with someone or family members or friends, you got to listen to them, understand their love language, understand what they're receiving or the love that they are willing to receive, understanding how to respect boundaries. Number two, respect. Okay, so we reverence God and his word. We make sure that we follow along. Okay, we make sure that we respect everything that he's telling us to do. I'm saying, in your spirit, when things are right within your spirit, and when you're hearing something within your spirit, and just go ahead and do it. Just be obedient right away. Respect your husband. If you're married, try to respect him. I know it's difficult, but respecting your husband and doing the things of God and allowing the consequences to be on God instead of on you. So if your husband does not act right, it still says in the Bible that you still supposed to respect him. Now that doesn't mean that if he's saying jump off a cliff, you jump, or do this stupid thing over here, you fall into dumb stuff. That's not what God is saying. God is saying respect him. You're not going to talk crazy to him. Don't respond foolishly to him. Okay. So you can learn how to just be a quiet person. Now, except for when you are going through so many different things where it's causing problems mentally and physically and draining you and messing up your health, and you need to speak up. Like I said before, get thee behind me, Satan. Sometimes you must say those things. And if a person has Satan within them, you better say some stuff. You're going to have to talk back to the enemy so that the enemy understands that he's going to have to leave. And respecting, it means loving your wife. If you're married and you have a wife, love your wife, treat her right, cherish her, care for her like you would care for yourself. Now, if you don't care for yourself, you might just need to back up and go get some help. Get yourself into an institute or a recovery center and learn how to love. Maybe they have one. I don't know. Learn how to love in corporation. I don't know. Okay. And we respect boundaries. Respect the boundaries of the person. Like, don't just do what you want to do. Don't love a person the way you want to love them when you know that you're being disrespectful. Don't love someone and you are being harsh with them and disrespectful to them. That's not the kind of love people want to receive. And so, and the same with you. If you don't want to receive that type of love, don't do it. Because like I said, people have to return stuff to the sender. This stuff is going to come back to you. It's going to come back to you. Number 3, how to love. You give to or help people. So like if somebody's in need, you help them. And sometimes you want to just show love, even if they don't need something. Like if you feel like buying flowers or giving something to someone and that's what's in your heart, do it. It doesn't matter how other people think of you. It doesn't matter if they think that you're just trying to buy love or just like smother people. If whatever's in your heart, you do it. Okay. If it's love and you want to give, don't expect anything in return. Love gives without expecting anything in return. Okay. Number 4, pray for them. Desire the best for them. So one of the ways that we can love people is pray for them. You know that they're down. You know that they're going through. You might not even know exactly what the situation is, but you see people and you see them down. You see them discouraged and despair. Help them by praying for them. Love them by praying for them and keeping them lifted before the Lord, especially the ministers, all the people who are living for the Lord and really, really working and doing the things that they're supposed to do. Like, if they have a calling on their life and they are fulfilling those callings, they're going to go through things and the devil is going to attack them and always be against them. So that means that we must keep them in prayer. How to love the pastors and the governments of the church. So we're supposed to pray for the saints. The saints are going to continually be attacked by Satan. Satan opposes God and God's people. So that means that we have to encourage each other, uplift each other, continue to keep them in prayer. So one of the ones I wanted to read was Ephesians chapter 3, 14 through 21. And that shows us that we are to pray, that God's Holy Spirit continues to strengthen their inner man and that Christ dwells in their heart. And then also you want to pray that Galatians 5 and 22 through 26, that all these fruit of the Spirit continues to develop within these saints or those who are out doing a work and laboring for the Lord. So you want them to continue to stay strong, even when they face opposition or if they're facing health issues, whatever the case may be, lack, they need finances, but whatever it is, that it doesn't make them lose what they have within them. So the Holy Spirit, of course, is going to remain, but those fruit of the Spirit want that to grow within them and continue to develop within them so they remain strong in God. We have to pray continually that they imitate Christ continually. There are so many that are falling by the wayside, or they are falling away from Christ or from what they have been taught or what they have learned. So that means that we must continue to stay prayed up and pray for them so that they remain in God instead of falling away. Serve them if you're in position to serve, okay? Help. Don't just sit back and just relax. Do something. We're all in this body of Christ together. We're all part of the body of Christ. That doesn't mean that you just come and sit down, okay? So if you want to love and want to do right by your leaders, make sure you're praying. Make sure you're serving. Make sure you're doing the things that you ought to do so that they can remain in their place. So if we keep them lifted up in prayer, they shall remain and stand strong and firm in God. Children, obey your parents. That's the form of love that you are to act out towards them. So since love is an action word, you act it out by being obedient to your parents. Honor your father and your mother. So that means doing right by them. You are remembering what they've told you, what they have taught you, they have trained you. So do what's right. Treat them right. Love them right. And then the next one is make sacrifices. Make sacrifices. Stop thinking of yourself and make sure that you think of others. So sometimes you have to put some things aside that's affecting someone else's life, especially when you're in marriage. So whether you're in marriage or if you're serving God, so God wants us to put certain things away, especially when you grow deeper in relationship with Him. There are some things that you do have to put away. And so if you love Him, you're going to keep His commandments. You're going to respect Him and His word when it comes to you. So if you want to grow continuously in Him and you want to continue receiving gifts, you'll be obedient. So when He say put that sex toy down or whatever the case may be, if He wants you to turn off the television, get rid of the television, get rid of it. Spend some more time with Him. Spend some more time with your family. Whatever it is, it's just make sacrifices. Instead of thinking that they ought to be like us or ought to be doing a certain type of thing or speaking a certain type of way, or we can't associate ourselves with them. Like, just love people for who they are. We are so critical of everyone else and forget to look in the mirror at ourselves as if we're perfect, but we shouldn't try to fix everybody, or make them like us, especially when we don't even know that we are very imperfect. Okay, so learn to love people how they are and for who they are, and the love that you have within you will rub off on them if it's true love, if it's sincere. The more you love people, the more you allow God's love within you to shine forth. It'll change other people, it'll shine bright on them. So make sure that you're loving correctly so that they can learn how to love. You be that light that they would want to be around, and then they will change, and that darkness that's on them it will start fading away, okay? Because it'll start getting bright within them too, okay? So I hope you stay tuned for the next episode. The next episode is Teach Me How to Obey. See you next time.